now.
Hi, Shelly. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I just want to start by welcoming you back. It means a lot that you keep coming to these appointments and that you're really trying to work on everything. So, I just want to start off by kind of checking in. How are things going with you?
Um, Things are going okay. I'm still having a lot of anxiety, pretty much on a daily basis, but it's no worse than it was, but it's not better either. So
Okay.
just kind of holding course, I guess.
Okay. So it hasn't gotten worse, but you still have a lot to work on. So,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Last time, if you remember, we did that assessment where I asked you a whole bunch of questions and I really just kind of got to know you and, what you're needing and wanting and everything. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to take all that information and kind of synthesize it. And we're going to get some goals written down to kind of what you really want out of all this. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, whenever we make these goals, this will kind of structure our time together. So, our future meetings will be working towards these goals. So, really, what we're doing today is we're going to figure out how we're going to structure our time together for our next meetings. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any questions so far about this whole process?
I don't think so.
Okay. Think that everything's going well and that we're going to be able to work together and everything?
Yeah. No, I think it'll be good.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So, for the goals, there's no perfect way to do it, but we kind of need to figure out ideally, what you want your situation to be, what you want out of everything. So, I jotted down a few notes from your assessment. And last time, for your presenting problem and everything, we did say you were having a lot of that anxiety and depression, of course. Last time we talked about how you were kind of struggling to get out of bed most days. Your daughter was taking care of your son most days. You said that you were feeling so anxious that you almost feel paralyzed and like you can't leave your home at times.
Right.
You had been having nightmares. You were struggling with sleeping. And you mentioned that you're scared that things are going to get worse, so you're kind of being proactive about this whole situation. Does all that kind of sound correct?
Yes, like it has been worse than it is now. I mean, it's not
Mhm.
great now, but it's been worse. And I just don't want to, I just want to kind of work on things sooner than I did last time. So I'm not so paralyzed and staying home all the time.
Okay. Okay. So you're still experiencing that where you're not really able to get out of the house a whole lot, that sort of thing?
Not always, if I have a choice to stay home or to go do something, I'll stay home.
Okay.
So I would rather not go out if I can help it. So sometimes I miss things that are important to other people. So
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Is there anything else going on right now that you kind of want to add into this that you need to work on, or is it mainly all of this?
no, I mean, there's other things obviously that I need to work on, but I think that those are the main things. I don't know that I can do many other goals until I kind of get a handle on those. So I think those are a good start.
Okay. And I agree. It is important to take it one step at a time, too. So we're going to kind of break it down and do one goal at a time here as well.
Okay.
So, looking at this, what's kind of the number one, like, ideally, let's say, 6 months down the road when we're working together? By the end of that 6 months, where do you see yourself? What do you want to see change from here until then?
I would like to see me being the primary caregiver for my son. Right now, my daughter's doing a lot of that care,
Right.
getting him up and ready for school, and she's getting ready to have her own baby. So I think it's important for me to take my parenting role back with my son so that she can focus on parenting her new baby when it gets here.
Right. Okay. So your primary goal right now is to ultimately become the primary caregiver
Mm-hmm.
of your son so that she can focus on her own child whenever it's born.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So ultimately you want to be the primary caregiver. And what does that look like to you? I mean, kind of explain that to me.
Excuse me. Well, we spend time together, like when he gets home from school. and things like that, but I'm not preparing the meals, and I don't get him up and take him to school. I don't help him with his homework. Like, my daughter is doing all of that. So, I see how that's going to be a burden to her, or she doesn't see it as a burden, but, I can see how it's not fair for me to sit back and expect her anymore to do all of those things for me. So being more hands-on and I mean, we have a good relationship, but I don't do a lot of parenting things. I'm more like a friend he hangs out with.
Okay, that makes sense. So ultimately, you'd like to see yourself doing all of these things that your daughter's doing right now, making the meals, running him to school, helping him with homework, all that sort of thing.
Yep.
So we want to kind of break it down to one thing at a time. So let's see. Let's start with, so by the end of 6 months, if you want to be the primary caregiver of your son, let's say that, would that be with, so you want to be the primary caregiver, meaning that you're not relying on any help from her at all, right?
Well, I mean, I would like to say that that's a goal. I mean, I think that is a good goal, but in order to take everything back in 6 months might be, I mean, that's going to be a lot compared
Right.
to what
And I'm glad you're thinking about it realistically too, because it is important to be honest with yourself and what you're able to do at this time in your life. So that's why it's important to kind of break it down too. And like you are doing, think realistically about it too. So
maybe if we started with my anxiety is worse in the morning, and that's why I have a really hard time getting out of bed. And so, maybe we start with, I help with things after school, like while she still continues to do the morning routine stuff, and I try to take over the afternoon or and evening things until I can get a grip on my anxiety a little bit better.
Okay.
Because I have told her that I can do it in the past, and then I'm not, and then I just don't take him to school. He just stays home with me, which is not the right answer either. So
right. So you still want to make sure he's getting everything out of what we're doing too. We don't want to hinder him at all. So that's important to think about as well. So talking about you taking over like the afternoon activities, what all does that consist of in the afternoon? So what all would you have to do that your daughter is currently doing right now?
Picking him up from school.
Okay.
And then he usually gets a snack and watches a little bit of TV when he gets home and kind of has a break. And then homework.
Okay.
And dinner, and then making sure gets ready for bed.
Okay. Okay. So we could make it a goal that by the end of our 6 months that we're talking about here, you are taking over all of the afternoon activities. You're the primary caregiver for him for the afternoon for that time being. And then, of course, later on down the road, if you want to think 6 months after that, we could always say, you're the primary caregiver in the morning too. So it's everything, but we do want to start off smaller. So do you think that would be a good idea is, after the 6 months, we kind of see how you're doing with taking over all the afternoon activities?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'd like to think I can do more than that in that amount of time, but I guess if I am doing well, we can always move a goal up.
Yeah, the goals can definitely be adjusted as we go on too. Yeah. But yeah, I do think that is a good goal. Okay, so let me write this down here. So you want to say take over all of these activities without the assistance of your daughter, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we want to do that by 6 months, which would be, let's see, like June of next year?
Yep.
Okay.
And school will be out by then too, so that might be a good time to add goals when he's home all day.
Right. Okay. Okay. So we'll start off with this to where in June 2018, we will want to see you taking over all of the afternoon activities with your son, being the primary caregiver without the assistance of your daughter. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So that was the easy part. So now we've got the goal figured out.
Okay.
Now we need to figure out what you can do or what I can do or what we can do together to help you meet this goal. Does that make sense? So kind of lay out some steps, what we can do during our time together or even separate, we just need to figure out how are we going to get to this spot.
Okay.
So do you have any ideas there or anything in mind that you're thinking?
Well, I think the first thing needs to be that I need to talk to my son and daughter about this goal.
Okay.
They're very close and they kind of like the way things are. And sometimes they kind of want me to butt out.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be a little bit resistant to them spending less time together.
Okay.
So I think just getting them to agree or at least just letting them know what the plan is, I think needs to be the first step.
Right. They need to be made aware of the situation so that we can get all this going and everything. So I think that's an awesome first step. It's necessary and needed. So when do you want to kind of have this, think of like a goal date that you'd like to have this kind of meeting with your son and daughter? When do you want to have that talk?
I could probably do it sometime in the next week.
Okay, so do you want to say like by next week when we meet again, you'll have had this kind of meeting with them?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So by the time that you come in next week, we will have had you sitting down, establishing that kind of plan, just making them aware of what's going on, what your goal is, by June of 2018, I kind of want to be the primary caregiver as in the afternoons. They're still going to get that time together too, but they definitely need to be aware of that. So I think that's a good first step. So let's talk about how we are going to assure that you can do all of these things. So picking them up, preparing the snacks, helping them with homework, getting them ready for bedtime, making dinner. As of right now, I know the anxiety and the stress level and depression is up. How are we going to get you to that point to where you're able to do all that?
I think usually by the time the afternoon comes, I've had most of the day by myself because my daughter works and my son is at school. So, I guess maybe I need to take that time. I'm not working right now, so I've got all that time. Maybe I need to come up with a plan or like a schedule of what I'm going to do when he gets home.
Okay.
So that if I am feeling anxious or I'm feeling overwhelmed, I have like a list of things to remind myself of what I need to be doing.
So kind of a schedule of what you need to get done with your son. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So having that daily schedule, I think that would help you a lot. I do. So is that something that you want to work on together? Or is that something you want to get done outside of these meetings? It's totally up to you.
I'm not really good at that kind of stuff. So probably together.
Okay. That's
or
definitely.
You have like suggestions or.
Perfect. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I can kind of print out like a template of a schedule, and over time we can work on that together and kind of establish that schedule, especially like whenever you said, he's going to be out of school come June of next year, So I think that's important to keep in mind too. So during our time together, we'll kind of establish a set routine for you all to get into, and then we'll kind of monitor and track that and see how that's going. So when would you like to have this schedule done so that you can kind of start practicing it with your son?
If I'm going to talk to them next week before we meet again, maybe 2 weeks.
Okay.
We can work on it together.
Okay. So do you want to have it done by 2 weeks, or do you want to just start working on it in the next 2 weeks?
Maybe just start working on it. I think they're going to need some time to come around to the idea. And
Okay.
not that I won't start helping do stuff around at night. I'll try and ease them into it, but having a schedule I think would help my son too. We're not real organized, so maybe if he knows what to expect, that would
Right.
be cool.
Okay. Okay. So, I've got here the first week we'll kind of go over, the meeting and how that went, establishing what you're kind of hoping happens within the next 6 months. The second meeting we'll start really working on that schedule and getting that started up and kind of finalize that so that you've got that as a framework to kind of go off of whenever you need to when you're with him. So
Okay.
those are good first steps. So, um, let's see. I want to think of one more here. So now have you all ever done any sort of like family therapy or anything like that? Or would that ever be anything you're interested in at all? What are your
Um,
thoughts on that?
we've done individual therapy, but we haven't done anything together.
Okay. Do you think that this is a sort of situation that would help you, or are you interested in that at all?
I think it would help. I think it would help. I've tried to take back some responsibilities in the past and then I haven't followed through.
Mhm.
So I don't know that there's a lot of trust there from my family that I really am going to follow through this time and I really am doing better.
Okay.
Um, so, and then obviously there's a lot of stuff that's been going on since they were little as far as, our lives. So just working all that out, building some trust back up probably isn't a terrible idea.
Right, right. And that's just a suggestion. So it does sound like you think that could help you guys. Now I don't know if you want to talk to them about that right away or maybe give them a little time to kind of adjust to thinking about, hey, in 6 months you're going to be the primary caregiver and maybe even later on all together. Um, so do you want to say like by a certain date you'll have an appointment set up or maybe have contacted a family therapist?
Yeah. I think down the road, like maybe a
Mhm.
month or so away,
Okay.
probably would be better.
So how about just to give us a little room and to give them time to kind of adjust everything. Let's say that by maybe 6 weeks you
Okay.
have at least reached out to a family therapist and scheduled an appointment. So
Okay.
does that sound realistic and doable?
Yep.
Okay. So 6 weeks, we will have set up an appointment with a family therapist. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of go over the goal we set and then the specific steps that we're gonna take to get you there.
Okay.
And for the last one, before I move on, I can help you find a family therapist. I'll kind of research some in the area, and I'll have that information for you too.
Okay.
So that's something we can work on together too. So our goal, we said that you will take over all afternoon activities with your son without the assistance of your daughter by June of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And then how we are going to get there first, by our next meeting, so next week, you are going to have sat down with your son and daughter and had a conversation about this goal and just kind of make them aware and let them get adjusted to it and all of that. So you'll have that conversation by then. Starting in 2 weeks, so our meeting after next one, we will start working on setting up a schedule, a daily schedule for you and your son to kind of structure your afternoon activities together so that you can kind of fall back on that when you need to and all of that. So that's the second one. And then the third one is by 6 weeks, you will have set up an appointment with a family therapist to kind of help gain back that trust in the family and all of that. So do these all sound realistic and doable for you?
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
And like I said, if anything changes, these are subject to change. We can alter them if we need to. If we need to give you a little more time, that's fine. But I think this is a good place to start, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
I think so.
perfect. All right. So let's think ahead here. By June 2018, On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think that you are to be able to take all the afternoon activities over without the assistance of your daughter?
I mean, I think we have a good plan in place. I think the only thing that's holding me back of being 100% sure that it can happen is that I have tried and failed in the past.
Okay.
But I haven't had any help trying to get there either. So
Okay.
maybe an 8.
Okay. So an 8 out of 10, and you kind of explained that your hesitance is just because, you tried it in the past and it hasn't worked. But like you said, you haven't had help. So, all right. Well, that's a good spot to be in then, I think. So
Yeah,
that sounds
it's
good.
higher than I've been in the past, so I'll take it.
Good. Good deal. Okay. Well, I am going to let you go then, and then, like we said, by next week you will have kind of had that talk with your son and daughter, just to kind of make them aware and everything. So that'll be your kind of first step here. So does that sound good?
Yep, I'll get it done.
All right. Well, I am excited to keep working with you and everything. Do you have any sort of questions or anything before we go?
I don't think so. Not right now. I'm sure I will next week when we start
Okay.
doing more stuff. But right now, I think I'm good.
Okay. Everything sounds good. So, all right. Well, I will see you next week then.
Okay. See ya.
See ya.